Hello everyone, and welcome to the Thames Region Ecological Association video series on composting. Today we're going to be talking to Jessie Robertson, who is a London resident who does composting in her backyard and is offered to help share some ideas on how we can get started with composting as well. So welcome, Jessie. Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on when you chose to compost, when that was? And
since I was little, we composted at my house when I was growing up, and so when I've lived in an apartment, I've done vermicomposting. Every time I've had access to a yard, I set up outdoor composting systems. So I've been in this house for 3 years, and so we set up this system when I moved here.
Great. So who's in the house right now?
We've got me, my husband, and a 3-year-old, and 3 dogs and a cat, but they don't they don't produce compost, really, meat scraps that we can't compost.
So a lot of the food waste that's coming out of the houses is like kitchen food scraps.
And we're vegetarian, so we produce we have quite a bit of food waste, peelings and that kind of stuff, and we do a fair bit of gardening as well, so tomato stalks and leftovers from that get thrown in the compost as well.
How do you collect the compost in your kitchen?
We have this is the bucket system that I use. It's just, I thought it was kind of pretty, so it would, I wouldn't mind having it on my counter.
Okay.
That gets filled up every couple days, so I wanted something that was big enough that I didn't have to empty it daily. So those little ones just don't cut it for our house. So
okay. So how did you choose this compost system and the location for it?
Because we have a pretty substantial sized yard, I wanted a big system. We do very low maintenance composting. We only flip the pile once every 6 months, sort of. So we needed a fair amount of space to be able to just hold the capacity. It's kind of tucked away from the house a bit, so it's not as visible. It's just we're using old pallets, so they're not that aesthetically pleasing. So kind of tucking them away was part of the idea. And then it's a 3-bay system, so we start filling up 1 bay, and then we're only using 2 at the moment. You can do it with 2. So you start filling up 1 bay when it's full, flip it into the next bay and let it sit, and then you start filling that first one. And then by the time you fill that first one again, the next one will be ready to harvest. You could do 2 flips and then harvest it after that.
So all of your food waste from the kitchen would go in here, as well as your garden waste.
Yeah.
And yard.
And then and leaves, yard waste. We collect like leaves from up and down the block from all the neighbors. So it's really important when you're composting to layer green matter and brown matter. So the green matter is our kitchen scraps and green grass clippings and green garden waste, the stuff that hasn't dried yet. And then you want to layer that with dried leaves, dried grass clippings, straw, if you don't have access to leaves for some reason. That's really important to keep smell down and keep the decomposition process happening. Sometimes people just continue to put their food scraps in, and that's when you get like a mushy, smelly mess and it takes longer to break down too.
How did you choose a location for your composter?
Well, we needed, because it's a pretty big system, we wanted it to be kind of, and it's not the most elegant looking since it's just built with used pallets, so we kind of wanted it in the back of the yard a bit. It's nice to have it close to the house, so you're more likely to use it in the winter, but we're outside all winter long, so if you're a person who doesn't like the cold in winter, I'd suggest having it somewhere closer to the kitchen so you'll actually continue to use it. Okay,
so do you have to pay attention to the shade or anything when you're thinking about placement?
No. You do, like, if you're trying to do a faster system, you want to make sure that the moisture levels stay up, so you might want to, you could cover it to keep, and then you could some people actually will water it if it's not moist enough, but we don't. Ours is very low maintenance, so we just dump it in.
Okay. And so the amount of sunlight that you have in the backyard doesn't matter to where you place it, because you can work around those with nets and different covers for it.
Yeah, but the sun, it's not going to make it decompose any slower or faster. The compost generates a lot of heat on its own, just from all the bacteria eating and multiplying and dying, and so there's a lot of heat that's generated from a compost, and you don't need any additional heat. Some people actually harvest the heat from their compost pile.
That's another addition.
Yeah.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about your compost system and how it works?
Sure. So we have a 3-bay system. It's built out of old pallets, and then the front, you can just take these boards off, and when you need to empty one. So we have, with a 3-bay system, you can start filling up the one, and then when that's full, dump it into the next bin, and then when that's full, empty into the last bay. So our piles get flipped twice, essentially. At the moment, we're really just using 2 and one's for storage. So it just gets flipped once, essentially. And then it's over a year before we actually are harvesting that last bay. So this is our kitchen scraps. We've got some bananas, some dried clover, flowers. So we just dump that in. And then, after a few dumps, then I go to our stash of leaves, and these are leaves from last fall still from our neighbors, and just throw a bag of that in there. Cover everything up. Keeps the smell down, keeps the rodents down. So every once in a while, throw the leaves on top. You kind of want almost twice as much brown matter as you do kitchen scraps to get the process cycling faster, and you're speeding up decomposition and reducing potential problems with smell and stuff.
So when you're using this type of system, is there anything you have to do? You turn it or move it, or?
If you want faster compost, you can turn it every couple days and monitor temperature, monitor your moisture, and in 14 days, basically, you can have beautiful, black, perfect compost. Our system takes like a year, basically, because we flip it the once or twice when it goes into the following bay, and that's it.
So in this bay here, you're putting in your kitchen waste, covering it with leaves or the brown matter, the dried material, and that's all that's happening in this one. It's just layer upon layer.
Yep.
So when you're switching it over to the next system, can you show us what that looks like?
Yeah. So we take off all these so that we have access. Just slip them out one at a time, so that it's low enough for you to get in with a shovel, and then we just fork it using like a pitchfork, fork it into the next bay, and if it seems a little soggy or goopy or something, like maybe it hasn't been decomposing as much as it should be in some areas, then I'll throw in some more leaves just to make sure that it's got a good ratio of carbon to nitrogen.
So you can almost troubleshoot it from bay to bay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there some consistency that you are looking for when you're moving it over? Or are you looking for something specific?
You do want it to be kind of moist, like this. These leaves are dry, right? They've been under a tarp for almost a year. The kitchen scraps we're putting in are pretty wet, so they kind of balance each other out. But and then because these aren't covered, they get rained on, they'll get snowed on, so that generally like the moisture is okay. But if your pile dries out too much, then its decomposition is going to slow down a lot too. So some people will actually water their pile with a hose as they're flipping it to make sure it's moist enough.
Is there anything else that you can put in here to help accelerate the process, or?
You can actually buy, like we've bought on occasion compost accelerator. You can get it. I know you can get it at or Ontario Growers Supply in London. It's a little box. I can't remember how much it is. It's not that expensive, and you can just add whenever you could add it every month or two or something, or we usually just add it. Sometimes we'll add it in when we're flipping the pile, just to kickstart that process again of decomposition. So this is stuff that was flipped. Ooh, look at all the life in there. This is stuff that was flipped a couple months ago. So we've got, there's some sticks in here that aren't going to fully decompose. There's a cob of corn here. It's probably, in a year, I'll probably still be able to see some of that, and avocado pits. And so then we screen it before we just use an old milk crate that's got the little diamond pattern in the bottom. So yeah, this was all flipped recently, and you can see it's pretty well decomposed already, right? When the first time we flipped into this bay, it was like kind of overflowing almost in the fall when we flipped it in, and by spring it was half full because it had decomposed that much. So yeah, you can see, like, look at all the little critters in here, and this is like earth already, right?
Right.
Like, this could almost be harvested now, but we'll leave it until next year. We've got a lot already. And so then I just kind of capped it off with leaves to keep the moisture in and keep the little micro-organisms in there happy.
There's quite a bit of organisms in this section, so that's expected, that's wanted.
They're doing the work, right? There are ones that we can see, and there's lots that we don't see. They're the ones that are actually breaking down the piles. So there's different levels of there's the larger bugs and critters that we can see. They're eating the larger chunks of stuff, and then to get down to that really fine brown stuff we have, then it's the worms and the microorganisms and the bacteria that we can't see that are creating that nice black friable stuff.
Right. And it's really surprising how little odor the compost is giving off. It
doesn't
smells
smell
like
at all.
an outdoor fall day. Just
Yeah.
very natural. Great. So then from this area here, you would uncover the leaves or push the leaves back and move it into the final system, or
this is the final system. So this will get harvested probably next fall, and I'll show you what we harvested about a month ago from this bay. Okay, so then this is our storage system for the finished compost. So this is what was harvested. This has been screened through just through a milk crate, through the bottom of a milk crate. So there's still some chunks in there, like here's some eggshell, a leaf, but that just adds structure to your soil. It's not gonna do any harm. So that's gorgeous black compost.
And you use this all over your gardens and
we put it around the fruit trees in the fall, and again in the spring, when we're doing a sheet mulching. So if we're about to reclaim an area of the yard that's grass right now, we want to put more shrubs and ground cover instead, like edible ground cover and things in there. So we'll use this over top. We'll put newspaper down and cardboard, and then put compost on top, and then by spring the grass will be gone, and we can plant the stuff that we want in there.
That looks like great quality compost.
Mm-hmm.
You have your system down to a science, so that's great. Is there anything that you should not be putting in the composter?
You don't want to be putting meats, bone meat, seafood, that kind of stuff you don't want to put in the compost.
How about sauces and flours and things like that?
That's fine. You can read some places say not to put, you don't want to overwhelm the system with too much dairy or too much like wheat, starchy stuff, but a little bit's fine. As long as your diet is balanced with vegetables and fruit, you should be fine.
Okay, is there anything you do to prepare the compost system in the winter, or?
For winter, we just continue to use it as is all winter. And so like I said, sometimes it kind of fills up, because in the winter the decomposition is happening more slowly. So by the end of the winter, stuff gets pretty full, and then as soon as things warm up, you can see the pile going whoop, and the process really kicks in and everything heats up. But there's still, if you've got a substantial sized pile, there's going to be decomposition happening all winter long.
And in the spring, you just continue on?
Yeah, we'll wait until one is full enough, or we decide it's time to flip.
Can you show us how you work the compost into the soil when you're ready to use it?
Sure. We do. Most of our garden is perennials, so we don't have bare soil that we're starting with. So you just need to lay it on the surface really. But because we have all this mulch around the plants, like this pawpaw tree, we'll just peel the mulch back. Get our compost. Spread it out and then cover it up again with the mulch.
It's that easy.
Yeah, you don't need to mix it into the soil at all. The water and the rain will leach that nutrients down into the soil. The worms will carry it up and down and move it around and bring it into those lower levels. Especially having the mulch over top of it, the worms aren't going to be shy about coming up into the compost layer because they're protected under there. They're not going to get eaten by birds.
And how does it work into your gardens? Is it are there things to consider?
Yeah, in a vegetable garden, if you're starting pretty fresh in the spring, you don't have any crops in there, then you can add like about an inch of mulch, and then you can just kind of lightly work it into the top couple inches of the soil, and then you can plant your seeds in there. The only thing you have to worry about is if your compost still has heat in it, then you can burn the seeds or the seedlings. But as long as your compost is finished and it doesn't have any odor and left, it doesn't have any heat coming off of it, then you can apply it directly to the plant. You can plant your seeds right in it if you wanted.
Well, thanks so much for showing us your compost system, Jessie.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. If anyone would like to get in touch with Jessie and ask her questions about composting and doing this at home as well, you can reach her through Wildcraft Permaculture. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Happy composting.